All right. Today we are talking college basketball. College basketball, obviously, things are constantly changing with the transfer portal, with NIL. I mean, college basketball, the landscape is literally going to just have a ton of turnover every single year. But which conference is the actual best? We're going to get in that today and talk about it. Again, I got my college basketball analyst here, Bryant Northern, former University of Louisville basketball player. How's it going, my man?
It is going absolutely great, Big B, and I appreciate you having me on here as always, my friend.
No problem, no problem. So, as you said, I mean, college basketball with the NIL, especially with the transfer portal, college basketball is a ever changing window. I mean, the turnover is constant. I mean, it's a new age. It's a new age, a new era of basketball, of college basketball. Um, and so when it comes to conferences, it used to be guys, if you transferred within a conference, guys had to sit out a year. I mean, you had to sit out a year, but there were, consequences of transferring within conferences. Now teams or guys are transferring within rivals within the conference. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. Give me your take on what you think about, the ever changing landscape of conferences when it comes to people transferring and your overall take on that.
The power is now in the hands of the players. It
Yeah.
used to be the universities kind of owned you. You either
Yeah.
played for them or you sat out a year, you had
Yeah.
to wait, and your future was up in the air. Now
Absolutely.
these players have the power back, and they are making it's really a free for all. It's this revolving door of I'm not happy, I'm not playing a bunch. Coach yelled at me, I'm gone, I'm out of here, and I'm going to go somewhere else and play and maybe even make more money doing it. I think the age of dynasties are over. Back in the day, you would
Yeah.
see Duke go to the Final Four, the championship game consecutive years, or Michigan with the Fab Five, or a UNLV, or even a UK in Patino's time. I don't think we're going to see that no more. I think
Mm-mm.
guys are either going pro, guys are transferring. Um, Duke loses to Virginia Tech the other day, and Virginia Tech might beat Duke once every 10 or 12 years. I think we're going to see now that the blue bloods and the powerhouses of the past, they're going to be susceptible to being beat by the Georgia Techs and the Vanderbilts because people are going to transfer and really start to build some talent into these smaller schools or these schools that would normally be in the bottom of the conferences. So I think what we're seeing is this is a new landscape of college sports. It's a new landscape of college basketball. And the days of the powerhouses and the dynasties are going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And especially the part about teams that usually aren't good are going to be able to be good because it's just what you said. Guys are going to transfer, and we can talk about talent, and talent is one thing. But you know what? If you're at the Division 1 level, clearly you have a little bit of talent that you portray, that you possess. If you get enough talented older guys out of Virginia Tech or whatever school you're talking about, they're going to be able to beat some of these teams that are younger just because they're more mature, stronger. That's just going to happen. So you're 100% right, man. The landscape is totally different. Personally, I like guys being able to transfer, but they got to reel it in. You can't let guys transfer 2 and 3 and 4 times. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I get it. You get into a situation that you're not comfortable in, fine. You transfer out. You get the one time to be able to do that. But to be able to do it 3 and 4 times, I mean, I know we've talked about
Well,
that
let's
before.
be honest. Is it really a bad situation? I bet you
No,
20% of
you're
the time
that's
it's a
right.
player. 20% of the time it's probably a situation where you're like, that's not ideal for you. You
Yep,
should leave. I bet
exactly.
you the other 4 out of 5 times, the other 80% of the time, it is a little prima donna, spoiled behavior. I'm not playing right now. I'm going to leave. And
That's
we've seen
exactly
it in
right.
football. Four
Yeah,
star, 5 star, guys at Alabama, guys at elite teams are leaving
yeah,
because I can't play right now. Well, kid, you're just a freshman. Wait it
right.
out. Fight for some playing time. And those days are over. It is a
Yeah.
microwave society. It is a microwave generation of, if I can't play right now, if this isn't going great right now, why wait till my sophomore year? Why build and get better and then be there as a junior? I'm leaving right now. So I am happy for the players because they don't have to sit, and players can go to another situation that's ideal. And this is saving some guys' careers, but it is a little crazy right now. It's crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy that on average in Division One basketball, 5 players a year are transferring. On average, each team
Yeah.
is
That's
averaging
crazy.
5 players leaving each year. So it is a circus right now. It's definitely a circus.
So, getting back to what we're talking about as far as conferences, break it down. It I shouldn't say that. Well, yeah, I should say there's better conferences as far as Power Five or technically Power Six, because when you're talking basketball, you got to throw the Big East in there as one of the better conferences.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me what you think. The traditional powers, Big Ten, ACC. They've kind of taken a back seat the last couple of years because there's other conferences that have, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion, that have overlapped, that have overtaken what they bring to the table.
I actually think the ACC is weak now. North
Yeah,
Carolina made the championship game last year, and they weren't supposed to. No one
right.
picked them to go there unless you were from North Carolina. That to me is, I don't think, oh, North Carolina made the Final Four, the championship game, so the ACC is great. I don't look at it like that. So, as a whole, I think the ACC is at the bottom of the Power Five or the Power Six. They are not what they used to be when Duke, North Carolina, and schools like that ran college basketball.
Right.
I actually believe now we've seen a flip. If you had asked me a month ago, I would have said, hey, look out for the SEC. Alabama, whoa. Tennessee, whoa. UK, whoa. Arkansas, whoa. We've seen UK took a couple lumps. They're no longer ranked. Arkansas is no longer ranked. And I still wouldn't want to play UK right now. They're on a
Right.
3 game win streak. They're bouncing back. But the Big 12 is the best conference right now.
One
The
hundred
Big
percent.
12 is rolling.
100%.
And I was looking at this. You got Kansas State at number 5. Okay. Now they took a loss, so we'll see where they end up. You got Iowa State at 12. Texas at 10, Kansas at 9, TCU at 11, Baylor at 17. It's not even a debate. The
Nope.
Big 12 is the best basketball conference right now, and you can't even challenge it. Now, the debate is who's the second best conference. Now, that's the debate. The Big 12 is rolling right now. And if I had to put money right now, the team that wins the national championship right now, in my opinion, is going to come out of the Big 12. Now, unless they beat each other up and they can't make a run because injuries, the best basketball right now is going on in the Big 12. And I don't know, just because Kansas State's number 5, I'm not going to say they're the best team in the Big 12 right now. Rankings are for ratings. That's something I've learned. Rankings are for ratings. The number 17 team can be as good as the number 10 team. The number 24 team can knock off the number 5 team. Rankings were started for ratings. It helps people tune into a game when they think this is worth watching. But we can't ignore the rankings. Rankings makes basketball fun and makes it fun to debate. But I do believe the best team in the country is in the Big 12. Who's going to win it and hang the banner this year? You ask me a month from now, that could change. But from what I've seen, there's some teams in the Big 12. I mean, even look at like a Texas Tech who's not even ranked. They can play ball.
Yeah.
Even when you look at the teams who haven't made that ranking, there's some dangerous teams in there. But I love what the Big 12 is doing right now.
Yeah, Big 12 gets overlooked a lot of times just for geographical purposes of where it's at. A
Mhm.
lot of flyover states. And for that simple fact, people don't rank it as high. But the big, and also because there's only 10 teams in it. But
Mhm.
top to bottom, it's not even a debate that the Big 12 is best. Um, Now, moving on to who's second best, SEC, and I don't think it's the Big 10. I think it's either between the SEC and the Pac 12. Pac 12, I know a lot of people don't see because it's on the West Coast. They play good basketball out West. They play really good basketball out West. Also, the Big East. A lot of people, again, they don't give the Big East credit because you think Power Five and there's no football, but the Big East plays just as good as basketball as anybody else. So I think if I were to rank it, I would actually rank the Big East second. And then the SEC, Pac 12, Big Ten, and ACC, just like you said, is absolutely last. Look, North Carolina went on that run last year. And then they ranked them number one, number two to start the beginning of the season. But if you look at what they did as a whole last year, they weren't a very good basketball team. I mean, until the last 2 weeks of the season, they were on the bubble of even making the tournament. And then they come out this year and they did just what they did last year. North Carolina is not that good, and it is what it is. But what happened was they got hot, and they have some talented guys, but they got hot. They made a run. That's part of it. But the ACC is just what you said. I mean, Duke is down. North Carolina's down. I mean, they're talking right now. I mean, Florida State, which is usually good, they're down. I mean,
Miami right now looks to seem to be consistent. I mean,
yes. But who else? I mean, I'm just like, who is the
it's
good
weak. I mean,
team?
University of Louisville's weak.
Oh,
Virginia Tech just beat Duke, but they're okay. Boston College isn't very good. Florida
no.
State is terrible. Wake Forest is. I mean, it's really a weak conference. I'm gonna disagree with you on who's number two, because as I run down, and once again, like I said, rankings are for ratings. If you just look at quality of talent, teams who can make the tournament, teams that are really good at home, teams who are going to be there in the end, I kind of like SEC or Big Ten as the second best. And here's why. I know the SEC is top heavy. Bama and Tennessee have championship pedigree. Both of those teams could win it. Now, you look at the next best three or four teams. UK is on their way back. I
Mm-hmm.
know they need shooting. I know they had a 3-game skid. They went in and beat Tennessee, and I think they kind of proved like, don't count us out yet. I like Arkansas, I like Missouri, and Arkansas they started out hot. They got 2 or 3 pros on that team. Um, Missouri was ranked, and then they dropped out of the rankings, and I think they're on their way back in at some point. But I like the SEC. They have 5 teams in the SEC who are going to make the tournament, and 2 of those teams I think are Final Four championship pedigree with Bama and Tennessee. I look at the Big Ten. You don't have a ton of teams ranked in the top 10 or the top 25 there, but you look at a Rutgers. Nobody wants to play Rutgers. You look at a Penn State and Northwestern. Those are teams you don't want to play at their home court. They can beat
Right.
anybody in that conference.
Right.
IU is back winning. When they're healthy, they're a top 10 team. They gave Arizona everything they wanted on their neutral site. Um, Michigan is not the Michigan they were a year or two ago, but I still think Michigan's a tournament team. Izzo, I mean, he's a top 5, top 6 college coach ever to do it. Michigan State is solid. Iowa, they're a high scoring team. I think they're kind of hit or miss, but they're going to be in the tournament. And then you got Ohio State, who's just physical, they're rough, they're competitive. I like what they put together as a whole as a conference. So for me, I like debating SEC and Big Ten as the next best conference. That's where I'm at with it. I think
I
one of those two conferences sit in the second spot.
I mean, I can agree a little bit with that. I just think the Big East, when you look at top to bottom, have better teams. Now,
Well, I like
um,
UConn. Who else is sitting in there, in your opinion, that
well,
makes
Marquette
them?
is really good.
They are good.
Villanova is always going to be really good. I mean, they
Well, isn't
have
it?
they have good teams. I mean, it's again, they get overlooked. They get overlooked. Like nobody thinks about Marquette. You think about, oh, Marquette, what, they don't play football, so we don't think about Marquette being a good team, or Villanova the same thing. All of a sudden you look up, and they're 23-6, on the season. So they're playing good football. They're good basketball, or they're playing good basketball. I'm sorry, and they're a good basketball team. So I just think the Big East, like a team like Butler. Butler's got a decent team this year. They always have a decent team. It's just the Big East from top to bottom. I know what we think, like Georgetown. Georgetown's bad. Georgetown's horrible. I hate to say it. I mean, they're going to have to make a coaching change because, Patrick Ewing is, I don't even think he's interested in doing what's required. But having said that, I just think the Big East, when you look at it from top to bottom, can compete with the SEC and Big Ten as far as strength of conference.
I like the UConn and the Marquette. Villanova is down some this year. I think Creighton started out really well, and they're down some.
Correct.
They Creighton was really good early. They lost their big man, and he's come back, and they still kind of struggled. But I really think outside of UConn, and UConn's legit, and I think Marquette's really good. Don't know if they're legit like a Elite Eight, Final Four type of run team. And I think, like I said, SEC has two of those teams. But I still like the SEC top to bottom better than the Big East. So we'll have to probably disagree on that one. The Big Ten, I like I said, when I look at the middle and I look at the bottom, no, I don't think you fear Ole Miss. I don't think you fear certain teams. Like when you go to play, let's say you're playing Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt's not terrible. It's still Vanderbilt. But I think there's teams in the Big East who lose sleep. There's coaches who don't sleep well because they know we got to go to Rutgers. We got to play at Northwestern. We see Shrewsbury at Penn State beating good teams. I don't think some of the teams at the bottom or even the middle of some of these other conferences can do that. So like I said, I still like the Big Ten potentially as second. And I still think that the SEC with UK, Arkansas, and Missouri coming back on strong could maybe even be in that argument as the second best conference. The Pac-12 is intriguing for me,
Yeah.
but I don't know, man. I really think it's the Big 12 and everybody else, and then we could debate and then go back and look in a month from now and be like, hey, you were right, I was wrong. But I would make an argument that the Big Ten could still be the second best conference, and the SEC might be fourth. But it's hard for me to ignore the SEC when Bama and Tennessee are two teams I think that could be in the Final Four.
Well, you're right. It's still, I know it's relatively early. I mean, there's a month left of the season, and it's
Mhm.
just what you said. A month from now, all of this can be totally different. Somebody can get hot, somebody can cool off. I mean, but that's kind of why we all love college basketball so much, man, is because, it's always ever changing. Nothing stays the same. Every now and then you'll run into that dominant team, but there isn't any of that right now. And for me, I think that's perfect. I don't want there to just be this dominant team that's going to win no matter who goes out there. They're going to win. They're better than everybody else. That isn't what's going on right
The
now in college
parity makes it
basketball, man.
fun. And
Yes.
St. Peter's last year proved that to us. They beat Kentucky. They beat Purdue. It was Matt Painter's probably best team he's had in years.
Right.
Kentucky, I had picked Kentucky, believe it or not, as a Louisville fan, to win it in one of my brackets. I filled out multiple. I had Kentucky and Purdue to win it all, and I got beat by the same team, St. Peter's.
Gotcha.
And that's why I love college basketball. At any time, I mean, even look at North Carolina. They weren't supposed to make it there.
No way.
And you get a North Carolina who makes it to a finals. You get a St. Peter's who makes a Sweet 16, who end up eventually getting beat by North Carolina. But it just shows you the parity. In one loss, when it's one single elimination, anything can happen, and that's what I love about college basketball.
Well, and also it's who you bring in if you make a coaching change that can make a difference. Look,
Mhm.
clearly, I went to Kansas State. I love him. Jerome Tang, man, that guy. You talk about coming in and changing a culture of college basketball, of university. He has changed things so quickly, so fast. He came in, he regutted the roster. He had to go into the transfer portal and get guys. But look, it's Kansas State. The job is right now is go get guys where you can win now. You can't always just say, well, we're going to go recruit five guys and bring them in. You're not going to get one and dones at Kansas State. What he did was he went out and found good quality transfers and turned the entire program around. Because to me, they're really a surprise. But to me, they can also do some damage in March.
I would love for him to get new coach of the year. I love his energy. This is more than
Absolutely.
wins or losses for me. There was a quote he had where I guess his team was winning a game and his coaching staff just seemed a little blah on the sideline. And he said, fix your face. We're
Yep.
winning. We have a great job. We're coaching college basketball. We make a lot of money coaching this great game. Fix your face. Put a smile. Show some excitement. So for
Absolutely.
me, that kind of energy, when they beat Kansas and he's standing up, clapping and leading the cheer, what 18-year-old kid coming out of high school would not see that and say, I want to play for that guy. I
Yeah.
want to play for him. that energy, that type of vibe for me would get me excited. So I love him as maybe newcomer of the year or coach of the year overall or new coach of the year. What he's doing there is great. You got to think about first year, they lost their best player who was Nigel Pack. They bring in some other guys and you can't tell if you didn't know that they had rebooted that, you would never know. New coach, new players.
Absolutely.
They are so fun to watch. There's a lot of good energy there. I think he's making that a hot ticket. A couple of years ago, you probably could get a ticket to Kansas State basketball for a pretty cheap price. He's making that a hot ticket. Now you probably got to scalp or negotiate to get a ticket for K State, and
Absolutely.
he's going to help them win. He's going to help that university make money, and he's making basketball fun. That's a great product. If I can backpedal a little bit,
Yeah, go ahead.
I left some stuff out. I didn't have my Wheaties this morning, so I'm a little out of my mind.
I hear you.
I'm going to go back and double down on Big Ten as the second best conference, and here's why.
Oh,
And I hate to backpedal. I didn't even bring up Illinois and Maryland. Illinois
yeah.
is a problem. Not that I think they're a Final Four team. I don't. I think there's some problems there. There's some cohesiveness and continuity they're missing. But shout out to Coach Willard, one of my former coaches who's now at Maryland. They're solid. They were ranked at one time before they got beat, and then Illinois is going to be a top 25 team. So when as I look back on that, I said IU's going to get in. I think Michigan State's still going to get in. Illinois, Maryland, Ohio State. Who knows with Iowa, Michigan, and Rutgers? But the Big Ten is still going to be an 8, 9, 10 team in the tournament. So for
Sure.
me, when I look back, that's going to be my second best conference, and either the SEC or the Pac-12 probably third. Um, I still kind of need to take another look at the Big East, but I think they're going to kind of, for me, be somewhere where the ACC is, where they're going to get 4 teams in, and all 4 are going to be solid. But I don't know if they're going to get more than four teams in
Gotcha.
as a whole right now. And it could, like we said, it could change in a month, and I'll go back and admit that I was wrong. But I wouldn't be shocked if the ACC stops at 4 to 5 max, and the same with the Big East. But I think
Right.
when you look at the Big Ten, they're getting eight or 9 teams in, and then when you look at the SEC, they're probably going to get 7 in.
Gotcha. Well, that's kind of the whole package is who gets in the tournament. You know,
Mhm.
we can say certain things as far as who's best, but look, the the whole goal is to win the national title, and to do that, you got to get into the tournament and the number of teams. Now, the one problem that I always have is like the Big Ten. Well, they get 9 teams in last year, and by the Sweet 16, they were finished. You know, they had one team that moved on, one or two, I think, that moved on. It was Purdue. I go, but they were finished. So while you get a bunch of these teams in, and that's great, if you can't win, then what's the point? You know, and you
Well,
can't say that they're necessarily the best. And look, matchups matter. I get it. Matchups in the tournament, all of that stuff matters 100%. But the bottom line is you can't consider yourself every year and you're going to be this best conference. We get to the second weekend of the tournament and you got one team in there and another conference has 3 or 4.
I do not believe every job is created equal, and I do not believe every objective and every goal is equal. The Kentuckys, the Dukes, the Kansases of the world, the North Carolinas, their goal is to win a championship. Their
Sure.
fan base expects a Final Four. You
Sure.
don't go to Kentucky to make the second round. You don't go to
No.
Duke to make a Sweet 16.
No.
If you're a St. Peter's, you're almost happy you got there, and then you're like, we have nothing to lose. We're not even supposed to be here. Whatever happens, happens. You don't lose in the Sweet 16 to North Carolina, and the fan base and the coaching staff say, man, we fumbled it. We messed up. Is our job on the
Of course
line?
not.
When
Of course not.
Calipari lost to St. Peter's, people wanted his head on a stick. I mean,
Yeah.
people were like, get rid of Calipari. So I think ultimately there are some teams who make it to the tournament and they're like, we got here, right? Like we're here. If you're a team who normally doesn't, or it's every 3 or 4 years you get in, I think it's realistic. Hey, we're not a Final Four team. I don't have to get there to keep my job. There are some programs that if you're not getting to the Elite Eight, if you're not getting to the Final Four, if you miss the tournament 2 years in a row, you're out. You're gone. We're
Right.
looking for someone else. So I do think that there are a large percentage of teams who are just trying to get there. And then there's a large percentage of teams who are like, let's just win a game. And then you have your blue bloods, and there's about 15 or 20 teams who are like, we need to make a run at this. Our job is to win and get there to that Final Four mark and try to win a title. So I don't think that all jobs are equal, and I don't think all goals and objectives are equal. But there's pressure on those blue bloods. If you're Kansas, you're the Kentuckys of the world, you got to make a run.
Yeah,
There's no
no,
more excuses. It's we
absolutely.
got to get there. And with the transfer portal and everything going on, there aren't any more excuses. You can be bad one year, and the expectation of being really, really good the next year is still there. You don't have to take 2 or 3 years to rebuild. And we're seeing programs that can do that.
Well, that's the hope for Louisville, baby. We gotta hope next year. Let's get in that transfer portal.
There's a lot of hope,
Let's
man.
get us some players,
I'm running
man.
out of hope. There's a lot of hope, and you can only have so much hope. But we'll see. We'll
I
see.
don't want to end it on a down note, but man, we're just bad. We're so bad. I mean, and it's a daily thing where guys are just constantly beating us up. Fans are losing hope, but I know we've talked about it before, man. That's literally what the NCAA wanted to do. They want the team to be bad. They want the fans to turn on each other and turn on the program without them even having to come down with sanctions. They have literally done what they wanted to do to the University of Louisville. But it's just like you said. One year you can be horrible, transfer portal. The next year you can be really good. So I appreciate you jumping on this thing and talking to us, chopping it up with us, Bryant.
Appreciate
Man,
being here.
I always have a good time. We'll be back again next week talking some more college basketball, man. So I
Absolutely,
appreciate you
absolutely.
joining in, man.
Thank you.